Hello and welcome to Reflections on Film. In this video I will be continuing my analysis of Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, directed by Alejandro Iñárritu. So far in this series I've made the case that the opening credits tell a story which, combined with the main film, demonstrates a cyclical pattern of behavior that our main character, Regan Thompson, experiences. I've introduced the three phases of this cycle, and in this video I'll be talking about the second phase of that cycle, characterized by denial, and how it is represented in the second acts of both the opening credits and the main film. The second act of the credits sequence begins when we see orange letters begin to pop up on a black screen in alphabetical order. As each of these orange letters appear, we hear a corresponding drum beat. At first these letters appear slowly, but the pace increases in tempo as more letters are revealed. The letters form a complete thought, which is revealed to be a question, and the message reads, "And did you get what you wanted from this life, even so?" And this first message is justified to the left side of the frame. I'll go ahead and play the video of these letters appearing on screen so you can get an idea of how the pace of their appearance matches the pace of the drums. After this message is revealed, there's a brief pause before a second group of orange letters begin to appear. Like the last group, these letters also appear with corresponding drum strikes. This time the letters appearing on screen are justified to the right side of the frame. Once the letters have been revealed, we see that they form a response to the initial question, which reads, "I did." Once again, I'll let this short clip play out for you. Next, a third message begins to appear, this time justified to the left of frame. Once again we are presented with a question, this time asking, "And what did you want?" And here's that sequence from the film. We then receive our fourth and final message, which, like the second, is justified to the right of frame. Again, the pace of the drums matches the rate of letters appearing on screen. Once again we see that after being presented with a question, we now have an answer. The final message reads, "To call myself beloved, to feel myself beloved on earth." We also see the messages are actually a poem by Raymond Carver, and as we see the author's name at the bottom of the screen, the drums fade out and the sound of chirping crickets is all that remains. Once more, I'll let you see how this plays out on screen for reference. So let's start talking about what this all might represent. The questions appear with a left justification, and the answers with a right justification. However, all of the messages are orange, which can be taken as an indication that everything we see is being thought by a single person. The alternating justifications are meant to represent one part of our character's mind questioning another, representing the process of self-reflection. The drums accompanying the letters represent his thoughts in action. As the drums beat, we see Regan's thoughts displayed on screen. We can take this representation of self-reflection, coupled with the fact that we see a quotation of a Raymond Carver poem, and interpret all of this as a representation of what's going on inside Regan's mind as he reads a poem by his favorite artist. We know that Regan appreciates Carver's work because his Broadway play is based on one of his short stories. And Regan also reveals that he was inspired to become an actor after Carver saw him perform as a young man. Now, after we hear the crickets chirping for a moment, the orange text begins to disappear from the screen rapidly with a corresponding flurry of drum beats. Some of the letters are replaced before they're removed, some are replaced but remain on screen. As they're disappearing and changing, the title of the film begins to appear, center justified and in gray text. As the word bird becomes fully formed on screen, the action slows and we hear crickets chirping once again. During this pause, we see that the remaining orange letters on the screen spell nothing. They seem to be just random letters scattered about the frame. The remaining letters of the title begin to appear in gray text, while all but 4 of the orange letters then disappear. Those remaining spell out the word amor, which is Spanish for love. As the drums quiet, the sound of crickets becomes prominent once again. And I'll go ahead and play this section of the film for you right now for reference. Now, I interpreted this to be a representation of the formation of the Birdman persona inside of Riggins' mind. The word Birdman appears on screen as the other text becomes jumbled, a sort of visual representation of Riggin recalibrating his psyche. The fact that the word is depicted in gray represents that it's a man-made fabrication, reminiscent of the dullness of our fabricated concrete world. The gray is in contrast with the more vibrant orange text, which I interpreted to be a depiction of the rational side of Riggins' mind. What we're left with at the end of this act is a representation of the two desires which Riggin cannot reconcile within himself. By reflecting on the Carver poem, he now understands that his desire to be famous is really just an extension of his desire to feel loved. It's through love that he now believes he will find fulfillment. This is represented in the orange text spelling the word amor. The thing that Riggin remains in denial about is the fact that he simply is not a great artist and will never be loved for his acting. He refuses to accept this, and he's become so resolute in his denial that his psyche has actually become fractured, creating the Birdman persona which haunts his thoughts throughout the film, represented here by the word Birdman in gray. Now, we see this phase of the cycle repeated in the second act of the main film. The self-reflection process, represented by the Carver quotation, is mirrored in Riggins' confrontations with Mike Shiner, a respected theater actor who's hired to replace another performer in Riggins' play. Mike represents everything that Riggin wants to be as an actor. He's beloved for his art, and because of this, Riggin both respects Mike and is jealous of his abilities, leading to confrontation. As they fight, Riggin is forced to face the truth that he simply lacks the talent to earn the same appreciation that Mike receives. The more he battles with Mike, the more powerful his Birdman persona becomes. In the credits, we see this same type of self-reflection and inability to accept the truth at work in Riggins' mind as he reflects on the Raymond Carver poem. Now, right after the final confrontation between these two actors, we see Riggin have a conversation with a powerful Broadway critic. This is where we see the result of Riggin and Mike's battles. The critic tells Riggin that no matter what happens, she plans to give his play a bad review to get it taken off Broadway. She tells Riggin the absolute truth in this scene, the truth that he sees reflected in Mike, that he will never be considered a true artist and has only been given the chance to be on Broadway because of his fading celebrity. In this moment, just like we see in the credits, Riggin's rational mind is unable to overcome his denial. In the film, we see this depicted as Riggin goes on an angry tirade against the critic. In this moment, I think we're seeing Riggin begin to lose control of his Birdman persona, channeling the Birdman's rage. In the credits, we see the fracturing of his psyche as the Birdman persona is formed in Riggin's mind. In the film, we see the Birdman persona empowered by Riggin's denial as it begins to take control. In both the second act of the credits and the film, we see representations of self-reflection and the state of denial Riggin is left in as a result of that process of self-reflection. Now, that is where my breakdown of the second phase of this cycle ends, and where I'll go ahead and cut off this video. In the next installment, I'll be talking about the third phase of this cycle and how it is represented in both the opening credits and the main film. This has been Reflections on Film, and as always, thanks for watching.